Some questions from short answer, the part two worksheet, right? I feel like the first three on here are actually really good ones. So number one, right, we're given the cosine of an angle equals -2/7. We know the angles in quadrant two. I want to find the exact value of the sine of that angle, right? So I always like to work with what I know, right? I know over here, right? I know it's in quadrant two, right? So I'm just going to start by drawing my coordinate grid. And then, right, whenever we're thinking sine, cosine, tangent, we can think of, right, kind of like right triangle. So I'm going to just draw a triangle. It doesn't have to be like exactly the same, right? But we just know it is a right triangle. And I know, right, cosine is always going to be my adjacent side over my hypotenuse. And we're looking for what? The sine of my angle, which is my opposite over hypotenuse. So if I put this in, right, I know I'm going to say this is a value of 7. This is my value of 2 because that's my adjacent. The negative just comes from the fact that I know all values here are positive. Only sine values are positive in quadrant 2. Only tangent, quadrant 3. Only cosine, quadrant 4, right? So that's why we know it's got to be a negative sign over here, right? And then I go to my next thing, right? I know if I know two lengths of a right triangle, I can find my third by doing Pythagorean theorem. I'm not going to write it out, but I know it's going to be a squared, right? Which in this case we'll say is 2 squared plus b squared, right? Which is the one I don't know. And then c squared is always my hypotenuse, which in this case is 7 squared. So 2 squared is 4 plus b squared equals 49. If I subtract by 4 on both sides, now I'm left with b squared equals 45. Take the square root, and b equals square root of 45, right? You noticed I kept the square root sign in here, right? Because what does it say? It wants to know the exact value. So if I put this in my calculator and get a number, it won't be the exact value anymore, right? And I know b is what? B is this side, which is my opposite side, right? So I already knew my hypotenuse. I know my opposite. If I go down and I say, well, what's the sine? What's my value of sine of that angle? It's going to be square root of 45 all over 7. That's a 7. Right? And we're good to go. You get full credit for this if you wanted to simplify your radical in here, right? Because you're saying like 9 times 5 is 45. And it would be like 3 radical 5. You would also get full credit, right? But the idea is this is the exact value. You're good to go. And I know it's got to be positive because sine is positive in quadrant 2. Moving on to the next one. Another good one here, right? As long as you just remember your exponent rules, right? So first thing, I have like radicals up here. I have fractions down here. I want to just turn this into just since it's like saying a to the power of x, I want to turn it into a fraction, right? So over here, right, I'm going to say a. I know it's got to be a fractional exponent. Power always goes on top. Root goes on bottom, right? So that's 10 over 5. I could simplify this to 2, but I'm going to show you why not to do that in a second, right? So just keep it like this, and then I know if I have a power being raised to another power, I'm multiplying exponents. So it's going to be a to the power of 3 over 2. So that's the first exponent rule I had to remember. Second exponent rule, if I'm dividing my exponents, or dividing same bases, I'm subtracting exponents. So if I put to my calculator, right, and I do a little alpha button, which is the green button, and the button right next to it creates a fraction, I can put 10 over 5 minus, and do it again, 3 over 2, right? Because this is what they're trying to get you to remember, not how to add, subtract, multiply fractions. I would get either, right, 0.5 or 1/2, right? And I know if I get this, I can just press the little math button and turn a decimal into a fraction, right? If you hit math and it's the number 1, it does that. So what do I get as my answer? A to the power of 1/2. But since I want to know the value of x, x equals 1/2. Good to go. Last one we're looking at, right? Because I'm going to skip number 4. I'm looking, this is a probability question, right? I know at the Lakeside Resort, we have the probability of a guest room has a view of the lake of 0.24. Probability that guest room has a queen size bed is 0.74. It says let A, right? So, right, I know A is going to be the event that the guest room has a view of the lake, so that's 0.24. I know B is the event that the guest room has a queen size bed, that's 0.74. We know that they're independent of each other, right? Which is going to be an important thing to remember in a second, right? So first one is determine the exact probability that a randomly selected guest has a view of the lake and a queen size bed. So this is, right, this is the and then at the end, right, we want to find the probability that they have a view of the lake or a queen size bed, right? So this little piece, independent, basically means that if I'm trying to find the probability of A and B, independent means all I have to do is say, what's the probability of A times the probability of B? That's it, right? So I'm going to say what? 0.24 times 0.74. Put that to my calculator. What do I get? 0.24 times 0.74. I get 0.1776. Right? 1776. Right? The year a country was founded. So, right, P of A and B is this. And then, right, if I know P of A or B, right, that is just P of A plus P of B. And then now I'm subtracting P, the probability of A and B. This is going to be an important like formula, right, or just thing to remember, right? P of A or B equals P of A plus P of B minus P of A and B. And the good thing is, right, we have all the info now that we need, right? P of A, 0.24. What's P of B? All this stuff was already given to us, 0.74. What's P of A and B? We found that, 0.1776. If I put that into my calculator, I get a probability of A or B at 0.8024, right? And remember how you can write your probability in a bunch of different ways. So is it a decimal? You can write it as a decimal, so I'm going to keep it exactly like this, right? So keep them, and I'll box it in, right? This is my probability of A and B, and then this is my probability of A or B. And we're going to stop there because number 4, I have no clue on how to explain that. Good luck, guys.